Okay, well done and welcome back. Now, you guys can be a little bit more creative than me, but I'm not going to spend too much time on my menu screen. And I'm going to use a technique that you can use also, and that is to actually take the graphics that you've already created. There's nothing more real than taking the graphics from the game itself. So I'm going to pop into Game Maker now. I'm just going to run my game, and then when it runs I'm going to take a screenshot of the game's graphics itself. Now you can see that when I've run it, it's actually opened up that game that I've made, that room that I've made, which is empty and not the game that I actually want. So I'm just going to flip them back around and run it again. This time it will run room 0 first, so you'll see my game. And I'm going to get ready with the print screen button on the keyboard. And I'm also going to hold down the Alt key, because what that will do is it will only take a print screen of the active window. So it'll be Alt and print screen together. And then I'm just going to close it down. Just pop that room back underneath there and go into Draw Plus. Now what I can do on my page is I can right click and go Paste. And I can actually paste in, don't worry if it doesn't fit completely, that active window that I've just print screened. Now there's sudden parts that I don't want. I don't want this menu bar at the top here, and I don't want the score showing there. So I'm going to use the crop tool in Serif Draw Plus on the left hand side. I'm just going to crop away that edge. Don't seem to see my guideline, which is a bit frustrating. I have to do it by guesswork. So crop away right to the edge of the wall. And then I'm going to click back onto the selection arrow and just resize that a little bit more after I've cropped it. Now notice that I always resize from the corner, never from the middle points, these nodes here, never from the middle nodes, because what will happen there is all you're doing is you're stretching the pixels that make up this bitmap image. Okay, so I've got my background for my menu. Now the first thing I want to add is the title, if you remember from what we looked at. I'm going to go across to the artistic text tool, and by default the font will be Times New Roman, but I'll change that in a moment. Now I'm going to draw out pretty much the size of the font that I would like, and I'm going to write the title of the game, which is Breakout. Now I could highlight this like you do in a Word document and then go up and change the font, but easier to just click on the pointer arrow. Now I've got that selected. If I select the text, whatever I do now, I'll be editing that. So I'm going to change it. Obviously I don't want it to be Times New Roman, or quite like Terminator 2. I'm going to go with that, but it's completely your choice. Now what I've also done here is I've added a white outline around the outside of my text, and to do that, in the color tab you can see that you've got two options. You've got the fill color, so if I was to click on that, and I've got that at the foreground there, and I change that to red, you can see that the fill color of my text changes to red. Pop it back to black, because I quite like it black. And if I press on the line color there, now I can change the line color. So if I wanted it red I could, or I could flick this wheel around and make the line color yellow, which actually I quite like. And then also along here you can see that you've got the line menu, and you can change the width of that line, which I quite like that. I'm also going to make it stand out of the page. I'm just running through a few skills here that you might want to try out on your menus. I'm going to right click on the text, and I'm going to go down to some filter effects. Well, these are quite useful if you want to add some different types of effects to your text. I'm going to give it an outer glow. I'm going to make it look like there's a light shining behind it. I'm going to make the light red, and I'm going to up, you can hardly see it, so I'm going to up the intensity. I'm going to up the blur. Makes it quite a nice glow. You can see I moved my filter effect window to the side so I could see what was happening as I was doing it. All that's left to add now is some instructions. So I'm going to click on the artistic text tool. I'm going to first of all just write instructions. Now of course it's important at this stage to make this a little bit smaller. You can resize text, but make sure you do it from the corner nodes. But look now, if I just change it to Terminator, make sure when you're designing anything, you always keep your fonts consistent. And as you go down the order of importance, so the title is the most important thing you want people to read, then the instructions are the next important thing, the size of the font then changes. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy this and paste it, and to do that I'm holding down the Control key and then just dragging underneath. Now the reason I'm going to do that and then double click is because now it will keep the formatting the same. I'm just going to write move left and right, enter arrows to control bat. Now clearly that's way too big, so I'm going to resize that right down. Probably going to need all of this centered actually, just to fit it all in. Probably going to need to change the line there, it's a bit too thick. And there's one last instruction that I need to add to my menu screen. And that is I'm going to have a press space bar to start. Oops, start. And that can be a little bit smaller, but not too small. I want people to be able to read that. Okay, so there you have my menu screen. Have a go now at putting in a background image. Doesn't have to be your game. You can think of something more creative. Adding text using the artistic text tool. Changing some of the settings. Don't forget I right clicked on it and I added some filter effects. You could do the same. And then come back to the next video in this series to find out how we take this image from Draw Plus and pop it into our game files.